Japan Armour and Weapons Research and Preservation Society holds around about between 18 and 26 events per year in Japan. We take part in events for reenactments of battles, also various festivals that take place in Japan. What we have here today are 3 sets of replica armour which we use for events. Now these armours are made out of aluminium, so they're much lighter than the traditional armour. The armour that I'm wearing today is a proper set of armour. It weighs around about 20 kilograms. Even though it's quite heavy, it's still quite easy to move about in. Basically, the weight of the entire armour is not actually resting on the shoulders as such, it's closed in around the hips. It gives us quite a bit of manoeuvrability with our arms. Of course, our heads are quite protected as well. The armour is made, as you can see, out of plates of steel, which have been covered in around about 17 layers of lacquer. I'm sorry, I'm having a problem remembering English right now. The lacquer, of course, protects the metal from rusting. It also makes it thicker and stronger. As you can see, the plates make it also highly movable. For example, with my helmet, by moving my head, it works in a concertina-like fashion, still protecting the neck. When the samurai put their armour on, the first piece that went on was actually the tsuneate, the leg protectors. Following that was a skirt-like piece, which protects the upper legs, the haidate. And in some cases the sleeves went on first as well. There were different types of armour during the samurai history. As warfare changed, of course, the styles and the shape and the way that armour was made also changed. The type of armour that I'm wearing is from about the late 1400s to about the early 1600s. If you get the opportunity a bit later, just try the difference between the plates on, for example, the skirt piece of my body armour here, compared to some of the replica armours made out of aluminium. You'll notice quite a difference. The samurai never actually had armour as a uniform piece as such. Instead, each samurai, it was like a car basically. They would choose whatever the style they liked best, whether it be the colours, whether it be the shape, whether it be the design. Even the helmet crests didn't actually represent much at all. We have some members with Buddhist inscriptions on top. We have others with, for example, the Ogawa sensei here. His helmet features a whale tail and a wave crashing. It was really up to each samurai. Like with a car, when you buy the car, you choose the colour, you choose the interior fabrics, you choose the accessories. It was rather like that. The price of the armour too is probably about the price of a car. The armour that I'm wearing now, around about $30,000 worth. In Japan right now, there are only about 11 true armour makers left. Our teacher, Mr. Ogawa, here is one of those remaining 11. Okay, so we've got to the stage where we're putting on the main chest plate. How does that feel? Not too tight?
No, beautiful.
Good, beautiful so far. The average samurai during the period of civil war, huge these days by any means, but it was quite a lengthy process getting organised into the armour. Most people couldn't do it on their own, so they would use a number of helpers. One of the funny things that I've found since coming to Australia this time is that there are some Australian samurai who really wanted their own armour. If you remember the kendo demonstration from earlier, Mr. Josh Orth, if you could come forward please. Big hand for Josh. He's made his own armour and he's made it out of leather. It doesn't look too bad, I got to admit. How long did it take you to make that?
It took months and months. Just punching holes, cutting and lacing.
It's quite interesting. He's done a very good job. Of course, the samurai armour is normally made out of steel. Josh has done it with leather, but it's a very good effect. He's made a very good shape, actually. Again, as you can see, the plates, in his case leather, are laced together. Now, these laces were usually either leather or braided silk or braided cotton. What have you used here, Josh?
It's a nylon, close to silk.
Right. But as you can see, the shape is pretty good. He's got his haidate, he's got his kusazuri, his main door piece, he's got his sword, the upper arm protectors. He's got his kote and tekko. Looks pretty good. So let's just perhaps ask the expert, Ogawa Sensei, どうですか?
とてもいいですね。Good です。
Apparently it's a very good shape. He's happy with the shape. Kabuto wa どうですか?
オリジナリティがあっていいね。
And there's originality in the helmet too, which he thinks is pretty good. All right, so you're going to just stick around here and keep wearing that. All right. According to Ogawa Sensei, the little dangly pieces of string on the end are unnecessary. They could have been tucked inside like that. There you go. Well, what do you think? A big hand, ladies and gentlemen, for a guy who's certainly done a very good job just by looking at pictures, I think. That's excellent. And I believe I also heard earlier that whereas the armour that I'm wearing is supposedly bulletproof, Josh's is arrow-proof. You've tried it out a few times, have you?
I have my 35-pound recurve bouncing right off this.
You were actually wearing it at the time when somebody shot you with it, or?
No, I stuffed it, put it in a safe location until the police passed. It's very fun to watch.
He's got a few holes there in his armour. If you get the chance to have a look at this later. The interesting thing is that the samurai, in some cases, once the armour was made, they would actually test it by firing matchlock guns at the armour. So some of the old armours you actually see the pock marks of the old ball where they've tested it out. But please, once again, a big hand for not the last samurai, but perhaps the lost samurai. Thank you, Josh. And ladies and gentlemen, what about our brand new samurai today? What do you think? Let's just find out how they're doing. As you've noticed, the armour, the body armour, actually opens and closes like a shell around the body of the samurai, usually closing on the left-hand side here. They fitted with their swords, which had the blade facing down. Most samurai, when they wore their street clothes, would walk around with their sword with the blade facing upwards. It was a matter of being able to draw it easily when either horseback, particularly in battle, or when wearing armour. As you saw with the Iedo guys before, they were drawing in either an outward or an upward fashion. It's very difficult to do in the armour, hence the blade was facing down. How does that feel?
Just like I'm wearing a car.
Just like you're wearing a car. Okay, what sort of car is it, by the way?
Toyota.
Oh, what a feeling, oh yes. Look, if only Peter was still here, he just took his kids home, unfortunately, but we've still got some of the Toyota guys here, which is great to see. All right, the style that we're wearing over here, it's a slightly different style, whereas the other styles are made using strips of steel around the body. This one is actually made in large plates with like a pigeon breast style. It was based on the styles that the foreigners, the Spanish, the Portuguese, were bringing to Japan in the early years when they first started going to Japan. How does that one feel?
It feels alright.
Not too heavy?
No.
You wait for a few more minutes. All right, let's check the chap over the end here. How does that feel with you?
I've never had such rock hard abs.
There you go. Wear those for a bit longer. Yeah. These suits of armour are weighing around about between 5 and 7 kilos. They're nice and light. As I said, the one that I'm wearing is 20 kilograms worth, but it's still quite easy to move around. Are you quite happy to move around in that?
Very happy.
Good. All right. So you want to buy a set, do you?
I'd love to, but I don't know.
これはいくらですか? 頼んだらいくらくらいですか? 30万. So around about $3,000 worth of work here alone. So if you're interested, have a chat to Ogawa Sensei here. As I said, he's one of the last remaining true armourers in Japan. If you want a replica set, have a chat to him. If you want a real set, have a chat to him. Just a price difference, may take some time. On average, around about a year and a half to make a full, proper set. Okay, guys, because you're our special samurai today, we'd like you to move over there for a second. Perhaps we'll show you some of the pros and cons of wearing Japanese armour like this. Sensei, as you can probably see with the suits of armour, there are a few openings that would allow a sword or a spear to come in with. Those openings include the chest bit in between the main sword or the arm protectors and the door protector. So around about here, usually the samurai would try and thrust a sword in. They weren't cutting as you would see in the movies. Instead, they were stabbing more so. The other opening parts here, under the arms, As you can see, they're not terribly well protected. Of course, around the face and the neck, if a spear or a sword can get in there. Also, under the legs here, there's a bit of an opening down there. Now, if a sword can get in there and cut upwards, there's a major artery in your leg here. If that's severed, you've probably got about 12 seconds to live. The same under the arm there, about 8 seconds to live if that's severed, and about 8 seconds if you cut through the neck there. The swords probably wouldn't cut through the helmet so much. You'd get a nasty dent and probably have a headache for the rest of the week, but they would protect your head to some degree. The armour was very heavy, but it was also very manoeuvrable. The samurai could work quite well and fight quite well in these armours. Okay. So let's bring some of the other pieces of armour over. Yokoto-san, and Mr. Yokoto's armour is made using 300 pieces of gold leaf. It's the gold leaf over the top of the metal. At the very least, he would blind the opposition, I'm sure. Now, the type of helmet he has is based on the shape of uniform in regards to samurai armour. What they did was they chose their own style, depending upon their tastes, etc. In this case, a helmet that is very high stands out. It also makes you look bigger and more frightening. Hence, in this regard, Mr. Yokota has chosen this armour. The reason why the helmets usually stood out the most is because when the enemy took your head, they would take the helmet too. So if your head looks good in a good helmet, you're pretty good. Kawada-san. Okay, on some of the pieces of armour, they would have, for example, a crest, or they would have something. He's got the kanji for openness or nothing on his helmet, which probably refers to the openness or the preparedness for death. And at the top there, the Buddhist Sanskrit for earth, wind, fire, space. Tsuchi, earth, mizu, water, kaze. What have I forgotten? I can't remember this in the right order anymore. Earth, wind and fire, they were a band, weren't they? Okay, it wasn't that. So it's earth, wind, fire, openness. And what's the other element I've forgotten? Water, thank you. Can't remember what it is. It's been a very long week, ladies and gentlemen. We've been to a number of schools over the week, and we're about to head home tomorrow, actually. So again, the different styles, different colours, it was up to the samurai. One last one. Katoko no onegaishimasu. Okay, again, the pigeon crested front, made out of strips. In this case, he's wearing a ceremonial piece that is used just for events like today. It's a much lighter suit, but it certainly stands out. Okay. 続いては鉄砲隊ですよね. Ladies and gentlemen, we like to end things with a bang, as most people do. We understand that you're getting cold here. Would you like to see the Teppo Tai, the hunting rifleman? Please welcome the Teppo Tai. Ladies and gentlemen, particularly those of you with small children, perhaps you'd just like to protect their ears. There will be a very big bang. Particularly those of you in the front rows there. You can just be aware. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Captain Hayashi of the Aichi Prefecture Riflemen's Group.
オーストラリアの皆さん、こんにちは。私たちは日本の愛知県から来ました個人研究会のメンバー6人です。私は鉄砲隊長の林俊和と申します。
Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Thank you for joining us today. We are members of the Aichi Prefecture Riflemen's Group. There are 6 of us who have come out to Australia for this particular event.
日本で私たちは戦国時代のイベントに侍武将が戦いに使用した火縄銃の実演をボランティアで行っています。
In Japan, we operate as volunteers, preserving the Japanese history and culture of the samurai.
ここで使用する銃は15世紀から16世紀にかけて作られた銃で火縄銃と言います。
The particular weapons we're using today are 15th and 16th century matchlock guns.
昔は武器でしたが、今は日本の貴重な文化財です。
These guns, of course, are weapons, but these days they're also looked at as cultural items.
今回は日本国並びにオーストラリア国の特別な計らいで火縄銃を使った演舞ができるようになりました。
We've received special permission to use these guns in Australia for this Year of Exchange event.
私たちの活動は銃と火薬は絶対に使わない戦争のない平和な世界を願い、
Like the rest of the team, although we use weapons and fire them off regularly, we do not believe that war is the answer.
そして日本の歴史文化を後世に子どもたちに伝えようと活動しています。
Instead, what we hope to do is to preserve the samurai traditions and Japanese history, and to show people around the world some of the traditions and some of that culture.
空砲ですが大きな音がしますのでご注意ください。
Some of the first volleys may be rather loud. Please be prepared. Again, there is only gunpowder in these weapons. No projectiles will be fired. Even so, please refrain from going behind the samurai curtains. Once again, the guns are reloaded. Of course, in the olden days, this would take quite a time. Gunpowder was poured down the barrel of the gun. A ball was fitted, and it all rammed home. On the side of the gun is a small pan where very fine gunpowder is placed. The smouldering ropes were used to ignite the pan, which would cause an explosion within inside the gun. I do hope we're not making any false starts. They're both racing down on the arrow. Again, these guns are around about 300 to 400 years old. They're not replicas, they are the real guns. This team, the Teppotai, or the Matchlock Rifleman group, often appears in a number of festivals around Japan. Mr. Hayashi, the commander, is one of the highest-ranking antique musketmen in Japan. The ropes contain saltpeter, which maintains their smouldering, keeps the flame alight inside. As you can imagine, even in Japan, these guys draw quite a crowd. Also the Victorian Kendo Renme, Kendo team. And of course the Bujinkan Bujitsu team. To wrap things up once again, I'd like to ask Mr. Nobuo Ogawa to give a few closing words for us.
はい、皆さんご苦労さんでした。多くの人が集まってくれて、大変喜んでおります。ありがとうございます。
To all participants, thank you for joining us today. And he says, thank you very much for joining us. He's very grateful to see so many Australians here today.
非常に天候もあったかく、大勢のお客様と芝生いっぱいの大勢のお客様が来ていただきまして、誠に感謝に絶えません。
He feels very grateful for seeing so many people join us today, even though it's a bit of a cold day.
これを機会に、我々と皆さんが一つになれるように、これからも活動していきたいと思っております。よろしくお願い申し上げます。Thank you very much.
He hopes that you remember what you've seen today, you can appreciate and enjoy more of the samurai's culture and history. じゃあ最後にしましょう。